Hi Sailors, it's the 20th of August 2026. As I've been saying a lot, it's a long time since I've made a video. It's been a crazy summer. A lot's happened. This isn't going to be a fancy video, just catching up on a lot of things that have happened. First thing, professionally, I upgraded my license. I have a national things. I have a AB Limited now, and my 100-ton master's license is now near coastal. So I was able to use my time with NOAA and get that upgraded once I had the extra time recently here. So those were major things that I was able to go and get through. You can also see this guy over here. You've seen probably the prototype before. Not going to go too in depth with him, but going to point out a few things I've done. He's a good project when it was too cold to do epoxy work on the boat, and the boat's seen some big changes. So I can show what this guy can do so far a little bit, but I'll probably go into a deeper dive sometime in the fall when it's cold. But this is my navigation droid. Mate? Mate? Who are you?
You can call me Nate.
Let's try that again. It's also a little warm here, so he's running a bit slow. Nate! Nate! Who are you?
Name's Nate, formerly N8C3.
Nate, what's the temperature?
It's 36.6 degrees.
He's scientific, he does Celsius. Nate, what's the nearest aircraft?
Nearest aircraft, N171U, C82R, tail N171U, 1.9 miles, bearing 137, altitude 1,300 ft.
Nate, where's my crew?
Crew, 0.0 miles, bearing 16.
So, I'm going to shut down the bit that's listening for me here, just because it'll trigger every time I say his name. Yep. So, Nate, my droid, has a general coverage software-defined radio, an AIS receiver, Iridium short burst data, GPS, LoRa, that's long-range radio, specifically mesh-tastic, in addition to a sensor board I designed years ago and stuff. And so, like, I'm able to theoretically give, like, my crew and friends little LoRa tags with, like, GPS in them, and he can actually track them. With the software-defined radio, he actually can pull the ADS-B from planes flying overhead. And so let me see if I can kind of show that here. So, always fun video of a screen, but that's what works best. So what we see here is, this is OpenCPN, which is what I intend to use for most of my chart plotting. And so what I've done is I've taken all the ADS-B, that's the radio that airplanes use to communicate their position, altitude, things like that, as well as the position reports from the little LoRa mesh-tastic tags, and I've made them into fake AIS contacts. They don't go over the radio, they're purely injected just into the data stream that Nate uses here for the chart plotter. So they show up here thinking that they're regular contacts. So I can literally overlay the crew like that over the charts, and then I also can toggle this on and off as well if I want to use like the radio for other things too. All the aircraft that are flying overhead, which is kind of a fun thing. And it's actually nice when I look out the window I can know what's going overhead there. So it just has things like the tail number, the flight number, you know, which aircraft, what it is, Alaska Air. Some interesting ones we get around here, United, Delta, stuff like that. And so I have that just in another form over on the left here. And so this N8 watch is just a dashboard that's kind of nice. You can keep up next to this on a screen if you want. And I'm too far from the ocean right now, or the sound, to really get any legitimate AIS contacts. It does work. Occasionally I'll see like there's like, I classify as an ATON in here. But there's a not really a land earth station, but like a shoreside AIS station. There's the air. I can auto scale and show the flights going in and out. Just tracks weather from my board. Barometer, get the trends, air temperature, humidity trends. I have a lightning sensor, which unfortunately I need to work on the driver for. We had a lightning storm a month or a couple weeks ago and it didn't pick anything up, so I'll need to work on that. But it's running pretty well, long uptime here. And then also been playing around with, was it Grafana, and just, you know, looking at similar data over longer trends, get a nice 3-hour barometric pressure trends. You know, can go through with like there's an IMU in the Droid to determine, you know, like how he's oriented, roll, pitch, yaw, heave, surge, sway, all that type of stuff. And other sensors that I'm working on getting up and working and logged properly. Things like light, UV. I'm inside a window, so no, makes sense. It's not detecting UV. But stuff like that. I also have a particulate sensor. So with the smoke we get from the wildfires here, that's an interesting one I'd like to get logged and built into this as well. So that's the Droid there. And then the last thing I was going to show you while I'm inside here was just a book I came across. It's a really neat book that I'd picked up years ago when I was at university. And I'm a big fan of polar exploration. This was kind of the start for it. And you'll have to forgive my messy desk. But I came across it on my bookshelf again. And it's Discovery by Admiral Richard Byrd, R.E. Byrd. And it had been discarded for 10 cents from my old university library. And I knew this at the time, but I think it's actually signed by Admiral Byrd. He's a bit of a complex figure, both inspiring. He won the Medal of Honor for non-combat when they did that, but there's also evidence he might have fudged his logbooks for one of his flights that helped him get that. So a bit of a complicated figure, but is a cool book that I'd had, especially among the ones I'm reading through. Just came across it. So we'll go out to the boat. I'll walk you through what's changed there. It's been a busy summer for the boat, and it'll look quite a bit different from the last time we had a video. Alright, here's the outside bit. I've been trying to remember where the boat was in the last video, but it's a bit different now. Probably just start at the bow and talk through the things that have changed. Obviously primer makes a big difference. I also have things like the insulation in. So I originally started with pink insulation. You get it in sheets like from the hardware store. I'd read in the forum for Paradox Builder, some people thought that if they did it again they'd use that, but I don't think they actually tried it, because of course realized that the contact cement's going to eat it right away. So I ended up going to the stuff that was actually suggested in the plans. It came with a fiberglass on one side of the foam and metal on the other side, just a foil on the other side, and basically cut it down here and faced it with PVC. This is intended for like kind of food preparation areas and stuff like that that might need to be wiped. So it's using contact cement to get the foam adhered to the actual inside of the hull, but then it's just a normal 3M, I think it's 3M or Loctite perhaps, I think it's Loctite adhesive I used to put these PVC panels on, with a little space for them to expand and contract. Easy to wipe down, and there is space around them, so it'll kind of breathe a little bit there, but it really cleaned things up a lot nicer than just the foam was looking pretty ratty, and also protects the foam a bit there. And kind of some backing on here because I've got a pre-made hatch that I'll use to isolate the forward part and make sure it's watertight here. And I have a lot of the shelves and whatnot done, or at least ready for, you know, kind of some sanding to make them fit a little bit better. I tried to use webbing, just like 2-inch black nylon webbing to do these, thinking for some reason that it would be easier than piano hinges. That was a mistake. I went back to piano hinges, stainless piano hinges, and I'm quite happy with them. So I've got, you know, hatches here, storage, and especially back here into the main salon, whatever you want to call the main crew compartment here. I did decide, you know, I'm going to probably just put water bottles here forward. I'm not going to try to do any type of water compartments, you know, that just seems like a lot of extra complication, and handling with water bottles I like overall a lot better. Starting to work a little bit on the trunk here as well. Just using a PVC pipe there through the bottom, epoxied in place. That's recent, and starting to work on getting, you know, the top part here as well, and then go through that a little bit more. Haven't sanded it down, so it still looks a little rough there. Really like how the compartments are turning out here. I do know that I'll need to take a lot of this out to get the lead fitted. I've ordered the lead. I went ahead and just ordered pre-made ingots of a couple different standard sizes from a local place that kind of does like recycled metals. I'm paying a premium, but I also don't have to pour 400 pounds of lead in the backyard, which is not something anyone here really wants to do. I think it's worth that premium. And so these little laser cut things around here are just mock-ups of the standard sizes for the ingots that they'll pour for you. So I kind of mocked that up in the side spaces here. So I should be getting those within the week. Definitely a pickup truck load there. And I'll get those fitted in and secured positively within the side spaces here. One thing I really am happy I did is epoxied the pencil to the, for all these the cabinetry here, where it goes into the boat, I use threaded inserts. And they are a pain at first, but the amount of times I've had to take these off, adjust things, it is worth every moment of time that went into it. So I'm using a 1024, so I would kind of call that like an SAE size, I guess, not metric, unfortunately. But they're easy to get, threaded inserts, and so just easy to take all of this out and get to all the spaces. Like when I put the lead in, that will make, actually building in the supports for the lead a lot easier. As I was just finishing this off, painting everything, it's been wonderful. So threaded inserts for these is outstanding. If I were to do it again, I'd almost be tempted to use rack ears, like 19-inch equipment rack or whatever, something like that. Maybe even cage nuts, I don't know. But definitely the threaded inserts were a big win there. Got this all mocked up so I have a closure. It's a little off center, unfortunately. I can deal with that. And you can see a little bit more. Nothing too fancy, just some of the lead mock-ups there. Moving back, I've got the basics for the rudder blade and the upper part, I guess kind of the stock there. I have the gudgeon, which is fun for my nautical friends. I explained that a pintle goes into a gudgeon and they find that hilarious. I haven't drilled it out yet to the size for the rod. I actually used a pencil basically to kind of be a pilot hole for when I drill that out. I'm going to actually need to buy a larger drill bit because that's larger than, so 5/8 I believe. It's larger than the 1/2 inch that comes with most drill indexes. But this thing is a tank. I feel like I could stun a small animal with it easily. It's pretty robust. So I did not appreciate just how much of a tank of an object that is. Then back here, in the aftermost compartment, again, just the threaded inserts make a big difference for all the cabinetry back here, at least the cubbies. And then this was, I was absolutely dreading, but I got it in place, got it, you know, kind of tacked in place. You can see a little bit cloth with the fiberglass cloth in place there to hold it, and looking pretty decent. So kind of the next steps are I'm waiting for this vehicle to pass by this lab, but also waiting for I have an order for online metals for the silicon bronze rod that's used for the pintle, the lower pintle, and the rudder. Once I've got that, I can start mocking the rudder up back here and actually cutting the hole back here for that as well. Trying to think what else. Oh shoot, chine runners. I'll go over to the pretty side. Let's see how well you can see that in the shadow. Maybe on the other side that's a bit rougher. So the chine runners here, I'll actually go into the workshop real quick, the garage. So you don't need a laser cutter, it just makes some of this stuff a lot easier. So for the chines at the different stations, I just basically laser cut the profile that they'll take. And I have the station location and the number of millimeters, you know, to the next station in each direction. And so I use those to basically help me just kind of define this profile here. This one, the right side, needs a little help. It's definitely going to need a fair amount of epoxy work to bring it back. I was getting the hang of using an angle grinder as a sander. It's a wonderful tool, but it can be a bit aggressive. So I'll be building this up a little bit more. The port side, which is actually in the shade here, is a lot nicer. It has a good template for that. So I'm actually fairly happy overall with how that initial shaping came out. I'll still have a little more finished work on that as well. As far as other tips and tricks, some of this I just might be able to go into later, like if I do a retrospective on the build especially. But one of the big things that was helpful for doing both, I didn't do it for the foam. I should have done it for the foam, but I did it for the PVC on top of it, is I figured out how to mark that out using a tick-and stick. There's a woman online who does a lot of like construction kind of woodworking who'd given me the idea a long time ago. But what you basically do is you get a stick, a scrap or something that has a distinctive shape, and you basically will mount a scrap in a known location. It doesn't even have to be the whole size of what you're marking. It's number 4 ports that actually goes there, I think. And then you basically just lay the stick up on top of it, pointing at all the features you want, like the center, the corners, any weird shapes, like when it goes around some of the structure there. And you can basically recreate that on, in this case, this large sheet of the PVC there, and it worked incredibly well. And one of the nice things about the PVC especially is it's easily shapeable with scissors. So that ended up being extraordinarily easy to do. Just took a lot of time. So I was very happy with that. Looking to using a tick-and stick. And see if, I don't have mine handy here. But you know, the nice thing is kind of any stick that has, you can even cut it yourself, just as long as it has a distinctive shape you're not going to mix up, it works pretty well. Aside from that, I think that's a decent quick summary of where things have gone. It's a lot of progress and a quick overview here, but most of my time spent building the boat. So I'll try to give more updates. I always promise that and always deliver about a year later. But continuing to work here, that's the news from the boatyard.